What's going on? This is Ryan with Automatic Comics, and up next we're going to be going over the current status of the Building a Comic Business Starting with Just $300 series of videos. So I've got all the books here that are currently part of this, this business that I've been putting together as part of the channel, as well as where we are with the sales, what money we have available to pick up new books. So let's check these out. Right, so before we get started, please remember to hit that like button and hit the subscribe button if you'd like to see more content like this. So I've actually been getting a number of comments recently about this Building a Comic Business Starting with $300 series of videos. I hadn't done a recap in a while, and so I thought this one I would use as like a catch-up, basically to catch up with everything that's been going on, which books I've picked up, which ones are left from that original Bronze Age collection, and where we're at in terms of the total value of this collection now. Because this started with an initial purchase of a Bronze Age collection back in about November of 2022. We're now in May of 2023. That collection total, including what I had to put into it with bags and boards and everything, was around $315. So, we've got a lot more books now today, so we'll go over what the current value of the collection is right now. But before we get into that, we've got to talk about the sponsor of this video, the Pittsburgh Comic Book Show. If you're like me, when you go to a comic convention, you want to see comics. The Pittsburgh Comic Book Show coming up on Sunday, May 21st from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. perfectly fits that bill. They have 12,000 square feet of space with over 75 vendor and dealer tables, and it only costs $5 to get in. Plus, first responders, military, and children under 12 get in for free. They'll also have DC and Marvel artist Koi Pham, so make sure to head down to the Hampton Community Center in Allison Park, Pennsylvania, and check out the show and everything it has to offer. All right, we're back. So if you're not familiar with what this whole process was, I bought a Bronze Age collection back in November of last year, and I thought an interesting way to approach that collection would be to use it like I was starting a new comic business, because there are a lot of people out there that are interested in going just on that path and how you would build that up to something else, whether you ultimately want to just sell online, if you want to end up going to conventions and sell there, you want to start your own store, whatever it might be, how you can start from maybe just one collection that you're able to pick up and convert that into something else. So that original collection that I bought was almost all Bronze Age books, a couple into copper, that kind of thing. And it was around 400 books. I bought it for, I think it was like $215 approximately. Then I had about $100 in bags and boards and a lot of time bagging and boarding, listing those books for sale, taking pictures, all that kind of stuff. But now, after all that's been done, I actually only have 2 books left from that original Bronze Age collection, but I also have a big stack of additional books now that make up what I have turned that collection into, as well as some cash that I have that I can spend on more books that I can add to this. So we'll actually start with the one graded book that's part of this collection, and I just showed this in a recent CGC unboxing video, and that was this one here. This is Iron Man number 128, an 8.5 newsstand. This is this Demon in a Bottle alcoholism cover, pretty famous cover for Iron Man. Now, this was the only book that was part of the original Bronze Age collection that I got graded. It was the only one that, after I evaluated everything, that I felt would hit a grade that was worthwhile to get this book graded. Now, what I mean when I say that is that if I had sold this book raw, I'd probably get somewhere like $50, maybe $65, something in that range. But if I put a little extra money into it, so the cost of pressing, cleaning, and grading, which I think total for this one was something like $42, something around there, I felt I could get around $165 to $175. So by putting in an extra $42 and some time, I could make another $70 or so. So that's why I felt it was worthwhile to send this one in. So this is the only graded book and one of the 2 books left that's part of that original collection. I'll get to the other one that's left later. It's somewhere in this in this stack. Now we'll just work through the other books that make up this collection and what the total value is of these books. So the first one here is Detective Comics number 169. Pretty cool Golden Age Batman cover. There's definitely a little bit of fading to the reds on this one, but still a very solid presenting copy of this book. So this is one of the, I've got quite a few Golden Age books that are actually part of this. And that's something that I would say, just a tip is focus on what you know. So me, I know Golden Age books well. And so I'm able to go out and identify Golden Age books that I feel like were a good deal. And so a pretty decent percentage of the books that I've used to build up this collection have been Golden Age. Not all of them, though. I've definitely bought and sold a number of bronze and copper books, like the Wolverine Limited series. I've had 2 sets of those books that I've sold. I also had a full set of the Marvel Superhero Secret Wars. So I've had some more modern stuff too that I've sold, but a number of the books I have are Golden Age as well. So this one's the first one, Detective Comics number 169. Then this was actually a free throw-in that I got with a set of the Wolverine Limited series that I got. I had another book that was also a free throw-in, in Our Army at War, that I've already sold, but this one is Chamber of Chills number 12, and actually a pretty solid presenting copy of this. It's just a Bronze Age horror book. Then this is the only other book that's left from the original Bronze Age collection. This is X-Men number 114. This is the first time that they actually call it the Uncanny X-Men on the title. It's not officially the first time it's the Uncanny X-Men. That is 142. But this is the first time that it's called it on the title. So this is the only other book. It's just this one and that Iron Man 128 that are left from the original collection. Next one, this is just a cool Golden Age pre-code horror book. This is Witch's Tales number 17. There are some really expensive books from this run, from the Witch's Tales run. This one isn't nearly as expensive. This one's kind of in the $150 to $175 range, but still cool pre-code horror cover with this, dragon monster and just a couple people that are being attacked by that monster on the cover. Then I have a number of EC books that I picked up. So if you're not familiar with EC is one of the big publishers from the Golden Age that put out a lot of horror and sci-fi titles. And this one is Weird Fantasy number 15. And, just a weird, kind of like Tyrannosaurus monster, but with tentacles. And you've also got the good girl art on the cover. You can see this is a Feldstein cover. It's got his little, signature down there. Yeah, Weird Fantasy number 15. Then we have Weird Fantasy number 18. This is actually one of the more expensive books from the run, in part because of this Ray Bradbury story that's in it. Also just a really cool sci-fi cover. Just so much detail and everything in this cover. I've always thought this is just a really, really cool sci-fi cover. So yeah, Weird Fantasy number 18. Then we've got a bunch of these are really cool. This is Weird Fantasy number 20. I like the pink in the header. That's really unique. You don't see that color very often. But also, this one's like a sci-fi and horror cover, because you can see you've got the spaceship where clearly these the members of that crew, it crashed and they did not make it. So you've got the skeletons and everything on the cover, but you've also got that spaceship, and this is also a Feldstein cover. Now this one, I remember when I got this book, at first I was really excited. I knew there was some mouth chew on it from the description, but I didn't know how big it was. And this book is super nice otherwise. It is a very, very nice presenting copy, all things considered, except for that, that mouse chew down in the corner. Then another one that has another really cool color in the header. This is Weird Science number 9. It's just such a bright cover. I really like the look of this cover. Another one it's almost like sci-fi and horror, because those monsters or aliens, I guess, they're pretty creepy. So you get kind of a mix of sci-fi and horror in a lot of these Weird Science books. Now, because of this color, I almost thought this was maybe a reprint at first. It looks so bright and impressive on this book. So yeah, just super cool Weird Science cover. And I think this one is, I think this is Wally Wood. Yeah, it's got the little, there you go, Wood signature down there. So this is a Wally Wood cover. EC they were just stacked with the artists. They had Johnny Craig, Wally Wood, Jack Davis, Al Feldstein. It was just so many incredible artists from that period, and just all creating these amazing covers. This is another Wally Wood cover. This is Weird Science number 12. Now, I remember I talked about this when I first got this book. Do not make the mistake on pricing with this book. If you're looking for one, there is another Weird Science number 12. They did a weird thing where they started the numbering at, I think, 12, and then they restarted it after like 3 issues. And so this is the second time around. And this book, this 12, is not worth as much as the other 12. And so just make sure that you don't accidentally price it as the other 12 if you're ever looking for this book and overpay. Because I have seen people do that on live claim sales, like on Instagram, where they will price this book like it's the original. And you don't want to make the mistake of paying that price, because this one is much less expensive than that one. But still a cool cover. You know, you don't get the dogs on the cover very often. So if you're, you know, a dog fan, then great cover for you. Now we've got like an atomic explosion cover, which is always really cool. This is a low grade copy, but this is Weird Science number 18. But again, sci-fi cover, but you've got that really cool atomic explosion cover on there. This one is basically like totally split, tape on the spine, everything, but you still have the main image. You know, it's a great filler book in the meantime if you're looking to put together a run or something of Weird Science. All right, so those are all the books that I actually have listed at the moment. Now, I've been a little behind because the rest of these I need to get listed, because that's one of the tips. I'm planning on making a video about at some point, about some tips, and you can't sell books unless they're listed. You know, so it seems straightforward, but you get these backlogs, and then it can be, you know, tough to get out from under those pile of books that you are trying to list. So I've got a number of books here that also need to get listed for sale. The first one here is Weird Fantasy number 19. This is a Joe Orlando cover. Got the little signature down here. But again, just a sci-fi monster creepy cover. So it's Weird Fantasy number 19. Then we have 2 copies of Weird Fantasy number 22. Again, just a sci-fi cover. And one of these is better than the other one. You know, one's just a little bit brighter than the other 2. But yeah, it's Weird Fantasy number 22. Then if you watched one of my recent unboxing videos, I showed a few books that I recently picked up as part of this collection. So the first one here is Amazing Spider-Man number 106. Nothing really overly exceptional about this book in terms of key value, but it is a high grade copy, or a pretty high grade copy. It's about an 8.5. I think that's where I graded it. So a nice copy of a pretty early Bronze Age Amazing Spider-Man book. Then we have Strange Tales number 150. This is the first Umar, which some people have said maybe ends up being a key if that character is used in the MCU in the future. But it is also the first John Buscema art in Marvel. So that was the thing I forgot when I originally showed this book. I couldn't remember. I knew it was the first artist in Marvel, but I couldn't remember which artist it was. But it's first John Buscema in Marvel. So a couple little key facts with Strange Tales number 150. I also mentioned that this is one where at best I'm probably going to break even. I may lose a little on it. There's sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, you know, when you're buying these books. I picked this one up on Instagram, and it was just, it's not the grade that it was advertised as. It was advertised as an 8.0, and it's probably a 6. There's just, you know, there's some creasing in the corner there, and there's kind of some color breaks along the spine. But, you know, you win some, you lose some. Then we have one that was a very nice copy. This one is like a 9 to a 9.2, Fantastic Four, number 84. Just a cool Doom cover. And I've said this before, you can't really go too wrong with cool Doom covers. And yeah, just a really nice copy of this book. You can see it's got a few spine ticks, but overall a very clean copy of Fantastic Four, number 84. So I always like Doom covers. Now this one was, I felt like this was a pretty good pickup. This was Tales to Astonish number 64. A couple key facts with this one as well. Second appearance of Atuma, but the first cover appearance of the leader, who one of the people who commented on the channel said may be playing a role in the Thunderbolts, the show that's coming out. So you never know how this book might react to that. So definitely a book that could have some added hype to it in the future because of the MCU. I generally don't pay too much attention to the MCU adjustments in prices, but if I have a book that may be impacted by it, I'll definitely, you know, make a note of it. So Tales to Astonish number 64. And then Hawkman number 4. Now this is an incomplete copy. It's missing the centerfold, but it is still the first appearance of Zatanna. And I mean, a coverless copy sold for like $120 last week. And so this book is worth quite a bit regardless of condition. It has a very high base value. So even though this is missing the centerfold, I'd still value this book somewhere around $175. So still a very valuable book. even though it's missing the centerfold, because it is the first appearance of a very popular character and one that I could easily see being used by James Gunn. I mean, if he decides to go down the road of doing something like Justice League Dark or anything like that, that could be the type of character that he ends up using. Now, she isn't on the cover, but she is on the opening splash page of this book. All right, then this one is just a Golden Age #1. I've said this before, I like Golden Age #1s. I think I was considering maybe getting this one graded. I don't know for sure. I think it was a question mark on if I was going to get this one graded or not. This is Archie's Pals and Gals #1. And so there are quite a few Archie #1s. There's a lot of different titles that use his name, but I like #1s. I like Golden Age #1s. I just always think that that's just something a little extra with the book. This one is actually a pretty solid presenting copy. It's got some color lift along the spine. I don't know if there was tape there at some point that someone removed or what, but there is some color lift along the spine. But otherwise, pretty solid presenting copy of Archie's Pals and Gals #1. Then this one was just a fairly nice condition book. This is Journey into Mystery #38. These Journey into Mysteries before Thor, kind of the earlier ones, they're relatively difficult to come by. You don't see them all too often. They have a little more of a horror vibe to them. This is post-code, so it's not like it can be super creepy or violent or anything, but there's always a little bit more of a horror element to these earlier Journey into Mysteries. But yeah, Journey into Mystery #38. That was one I know I was considering getting graded. This one I was also definitely considering getting graded. This is Meet Corliss Archer #2. This is just kind of like a good girl art cover. They're done by Al Feldstein as well. And the other thing that's pretty cool about this one, I showed this when I originally got it. I actually had 2 copies of this one, is that this one has pink pages. So this publisher was known for using pink pages in their books. And I'll show it real quick. This is from Fox Feature Syndicate, and you can see it a lot more clearly in the other copy I have, but you can definitely tell in this one that these are not white pages. These are pink pages, and they're just naturally that color. That's the paper that this publisher used. This publisher was known for using cheaper materials. You know, they're trying to save some money. And so there are pink page books, and there are also, it's something I had never seen until a sale very recently, there are also blue pages. So there was a period as well when Fox Feature Syndicate also made them on blue paper. And I had never seen a book with blue pages, like a blue pages CGC designation, until recently. There was one on Heritage, and it didn't really sell for any more money or anything. It sold for about what it would have sold if it was like a white page copy. But it was just really cool seeing one that actually had blue pages on there. I had to go check CGC's website to see if they actually mentioned that was a possibility, and they do. They do say that there are rare cases when you get pink pages and blue pages, and so that was the first time I'd ever seen that. Then we have, this is kind of a key. This is Strange Tales #101. It's the first solo Human Torch story in the Silver Age. I think that's right. It's kind of considered a underappreciated key or minor key. But yeah, Strange Tales #101. Like I said, I think it's like the first solo Human Torch story in the Silver Age. But yeah, that one. Then we have one of my favorite books. I have bought and sold this book a number of times. I always like getting copies of it. I like the cover. This is Flash #139. This is the first appearance of Professor Zoom, or the Reverse Flash, and I always like this cover. If I find one for a pretty good price, I will always pick up this book. There's a lot of demand for it. It's one of the more popular keys in the Flash run, in the Silver Age Flash run, and I always like finding this book. Then the last book here, it's currently part of the, we'll call it the inventory for this Building a Comic Business set of books. This is Archie #20. I've said this before, I like early Archies. I like getting ones that are from the 40s. I don't know the exact year for this one. This one might be like 44. This is 46. So this one's from 46. I like getting these Archies from the 40s. That's really where you're going to have them being a little less common. You just don't come across them very often. And I will say they do tend to sit a little bit longer, but they still sell. There are a lot of people that do still collect Archie. I like buying a lot of the early Archie stuff. You've seen me open a lot of these Pep comics in unboxings recently, where they're the really early Archies from World War II era. This is just, one of those from the mid 40s. So Archie number 20. So after all of that, what is my current approximate value of the books that are part of this business, of the inventory that's part of this business? My approximate estimate for the total value of those books is $3,865. So starting with just $315, I'd say we are already doing pretty good in terms of all the sales and the purchases and the resales, because we've already gone through a few cycles of buying books and then reselling books and buying more books. And so that's how we've gotten up to a total value of these books of about $3,865. Now, then we also have some, we'll call like cash on hand. So cash that's available to make additional purchases. So more comics that I can buy that I can also put into that inventory. And so with that, I currently have $1,125.33. So that makes the total value of this business right now $4,990.33. So we started in November of last year. We're about 6 months later, now in May of 2023. And we've gone from spending about $315 to start up this business to having a total value of $4,990.33. So I think that is pretty fantastic. I am very happy with how this has worked out, with the different purchases I've been able to make and then, turn into more books and more books. And so this is just, to me, a good example of what you can do if you're putting in that time and effort to find these books, make sure you get them out for sale and all of that. And that's one of the things, I've got a number of these books that aren't listed right now that I do need to put a little bit of that effort into getting those books out there and listed, because they can't sell if they aren't listed. So now that we are all caught back up with where we're standing with this business right now, hopefully I will be making more follow-up videos in the future as we make more sales, pick up new books, all that kind of fun stuff that we're doing with this. And I'll also be making some other videos related to this based on some questions that I've seen in the comments section and some other ideas that I have that I think might be useful for anybody that's looking to follow a similar type of process. Now, this doesn't have to be for something where you're building a business. This could be what you could do to build up your collection. That's another way that you could do it, where if you are picking up these books over time, eventually maybe some of them end up being books that you want to keep, that you want to add to your collection, and you can pull those ones out and you can, just sell the rest. And that's just another way that you can use this process to either build your collection or, in this case, build a business. So, hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please hit that like button, hit the subscribe button if you'd like to see more content like this. Remember to go check out the Pittsburgh Comic Book Show on May 21st, and I will see you in the next video.